Welcome to Crypto Kid Podcast. So today I have a very special guest. He's been on London Real and he's doing some great things and breaking some dents in the universe. The CEO of Vatom, I hope I'm saying that right.
Vatom.
Eric
Yeah,
Vatom.
yeah.
And yeah, thank you for joining the show. So why don't you tell my guests and listeners or my audience what your background is and how you got in the blockchain technology space.
Sure. Well, my background is in building companies, inventing things, or I should say co-inventing things with people smarter than me is what I love to do. I've been doing this since I was 16, starting with my father and building all sorts of interesting things, eventually with my brother and lots of great collaborators. Company 16 is Vatom, which stands for virtual atom. The original R&D for this company started back in 2015, but my journey in blockchain started quite a bit earlier than that, in 2000, probably 12, 13, 14. But it really, since reading the original white paper from Satoshi. But in where I really focused was, are there blockchain applications that could be transformative to the enterprise? Because a lot of my companies have been enterprise software companies. But in late 2014, I started to recognize that there was a lot of regulatory hurdles and time that was going to be needed to make a dent in that area. And in early 2015, I proposed the idea of putting a non-fungible token on, at the time, Bitcoin, eventually became Ethereum and others. And that idea for a smart NFT is really what's become Vatom. At the time, we thought the word NFT, non-fungible token, was too geeky to catch on. I certainly did. And in thinking about what describes what we're trying to do, it's the idea of dissolving the boundaries between what's physical and digital and all the mental constructs around that. So we called it Vatom, for virtual atom, because that defined really well what we were hoping to see in the world. And ultimately, that's what we built. And Vatom has evolved into becoming really kind of a super app SDK that enables the use of these blockchain-based digital objects and digital identities to create a new form of identity and loyalty.
It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's everybody has a story and how they got into it. And thank you for sharing that. You brought up some NFTs. So let's get into the nuts and bolts about things. Why is your belief that NFTs and fungible tokens should be paired together?
Well, it feels very obvious to me that when we started out on this journey, I was going around telling people that it was possible to buy, sell, and trade these JPEGs, if you will, of apes and kittens and what have you. And that's fine. There's a market for art. There's a market for collectibles. And I do think that's a worthy application. But it really feels to me like 5% of the opportunity. The 95% is around the engagement modalities, the gamification potential of these objects. Because when you have an NFT, it's really for the first time introducing the notion of true ownership of property rights to the internet. And before, as you can copy everything freely, or if you own something in a game and the game dies, then the goods die. It's a different way of thinking about it. But if you engage somebody about feeling that they own something, and if I give it to you, I don't have it anymore, and I got something that exists in a rarefied form, that isn't just to sell it to someone else for a higher price. That is even more so to become an instigator to a different type of relationship. And so what we find, and this is predictable and it is true, that as time has unfolded, the marketplaces for NFTs and fungible tokens are very different, and they reflect what they are. The marketplace for NFTs looks very much like an art market. The volumes are generally low. You have something of value, you were trying to find someone else to take it off your hands, and it's a peer-to-peer type transaction. You hope to find a buyer. And there are projects where there's floor prices and they move up and down and they look a little bit more like stocks, but they're anomalies. in the bigger picture. And they're not at large quantities, as opposed to fungible tokens, where you see things like Ethereum or Dogecoin or Dog with Hat or anything that's trading in the fungible token world. And you see massive volume and huge amounts of innovation around these tokens as a parallel internet financial system, and everything that that implies, from staking to derivatives to loans to all the different financial constructs that are coming up. And the fungibility allows it to move freely across these various decentralized and centralized marketplaces. So you have these two different economies. On one side, you have the economy that is really better suited for gamification and driving behavior more than speculation. On the other side, you have something that is absolutely well suited for speculation. So now what if you were to combine these two capabilities together? If you look at what drives the token success in the fungible world, on the back end, you have things like market makers and various people doing shenanigans with their skills and liquidity. But on the front end, it's very much about community drivers. What makes a community cohesive, interested in acting according to certain behaviors and driving price? Do they buy? Do they buy more? Do they tell their friends to buy? Do they hold it versus dump it? Do they trade it? What are the elements that make something successful? If you combine these two things together, you can now gamify every aspect of what makes a fungible token successful. And so for me, to answer your question a lot more succinctly, if you combine these two elements together, you can create a system where it's fun to play with your fungible tokens, and you can drive them to success as a community.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you shared that. But when I talk to my like friends and family and they ask me about like NFTs, they look at it as an art and they just think it like it's not worth anything. And I'm telling them, well, there could be NFTs in anything, like real estate, the metaverse, music is getting involved with independent artists. And I'm just like, why don't there's a bigger picture behind it, and hopefully you might be able to explain it better, so I could go back and tell them, hey, well, I'm talking to a professional here and this is what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then also on the tokens, they think it's a joke because they're basically saying to me like, well, I could go out and make a non-fungible token and it can be considered an asset. Like, I'm just like, basically, yeah, pretty much. But they're like, so it would be considered money. I'm like, not really, because what I'm understanding as a fungible token is like like a fundraising kind of get going on. And maybe you might be able to clarify that a little bit better for me too. But what are some of your thoughts about what I just said?
Yeah. Well, the common view of the NFT world is not only what you just described, your family is describing, but it's correct. I mean, if you think about it, it's why would you want to buy one of these things? The answer is you probably shouldn't. And it's very rare to stumble into, if you maybe have good knowledge of a special project or what other people are going to do. This speculative economy on little pieces of art is something that might be fun to play with, but it's not really, I don't think, a great place to spend your time and speculate. There are art dealers in the real world, and there are art dealers in the NFT world, and it's a worthy endeavor. And there are great artists and great projects, and there always will be a market for that, and they'll go up and down. But that's not what's so interesting. What's interesting is these objects as game pieces. It's in collecting them to create something else of value and to drive behaviors. If you take the position for the moment that it doesn't matter what an NFT's price is, it goes up, it goes down, it's worth zero, it's worth $1 million. That doesn't matter. What matters is what are the elements, the characteristics of the NFTs that are drawing you to engage. Are they notes that you're trying to create a song with? Are they puzzle pieces that you're trying to fit together? Are they collectibles that if you get all 10, they become something else? Are they game pieces where they can fight each other? This is the whole thing is a game. And on the other side, you have the something else that I think is true what you said. On the fungible token side, people say, well, is this a joke? What is it? Why does it have any value? Well, think about it. Is Dogecoin a joke? Yes, that's the whole idea of it. It is a joke. And the funnier the token, the more valuable it's going to be. Because what you're doing is you're in on a collective joke, the myth of money, as they call it, the collective idea that this is going to be worth something because you're going to support it and you're going to find it interesting and drive its value with a continued playing of a game. The US dollar has certain maybe extra characteristics that make it slightly more interesting, such as military, keeping it worth something. Bitcoin really doesn't have any effective use cases right now, but its scarcity allows people to believe it's an effective store of value. Ethereum, you can build things on. Then you start to move down to the other tokens. Most people are really not worried about what they do. It's the same as GameStop or a lot of stocks. People are really much worried about what other people are going to do in terms of their buying and selling behaviors to decide whether it's going to go up or down. So what if you could come together as a community and you can decide, well, let's play a game with these things and let's engage in ways that will drive success for this community. So for instance, the simplest one is to take a look at Dogecoin. Right now, Dogecoin is a fungible token. It does not have a dog associated with each token. It's a mascot of one dog, and then you have a quantity of Dogecoin. So when Elon Musk says you can use your Dogecoin to buy a Tesla, he's not asking which Dogecoin are you giving me for the Tesla. You just give a certain amount of Doge that equals the price of the Tesla in USD, and you get the Tesla. But what if you now combined the two elements together and every Doge was different? And the red one, let's say it has a certain level of scarcity, the red one's worth $1 million. Now, on your way to buy that Tesla, before you give up your Dogecoin, your fungible tokens, you're going to look at them to see if one of them is worth $1 million. The concept of looking at fungible tokens and seeing their difference is an oxymoron. It's antithetical. There is no such concept. And that's because they act as a quantity. But this new concept of being able to entangle non-fungible tokens to tokens and keeping them together as they move will revolutionize crypto in general and turn the entire thing into one big game. Therefore, it exactly fulfills what you just said. On one side, is this whole thing a joke and a game? Well, I don't know about a joke, but the funnier the joke, the more money it'll make. And certainly it's a game. Now, what if we can play the game better? What if we can take these other things, which are now used for speculative purposes, but better used for gamification, and brought them to bear on the game, the big game, the entire world of crypto? That's the goal here.
That's right. That's right. Because when I originally got into it, I just saw so much value in the way that technology is moving and progressing so fast and so rapidly. And I'm a big fan of like Steve Jobs and what he's done. And he just like saw the future. He just like from a very young age, he just like mess around with little things. He'll just go on the magazines about technologies and talk to his other friend Steve and just see like what this could do to humanity. And then like his vision came true. It was just, and that's basically what I'm trying to say is like that's what I'm doing. I saw this and I'm just like, I really believe that everybody's going to start using this. And with El Salvador getting involved with Bitcoin, and I was just like, it's just starting to become more real to me. But like when I try to explain it to other people, or when I try to like ask it for payment for like on Facebook Marketplace, they're just like, bro, you're a scammer, like get out of here. I'm just like, no, I'm not. I'm like, this is reality. It's going to become your reality. You just don't see it yet, and I wish you did. And this is why I started podcasting, to open people's eyes up. And yeah, basically that's pretty much it. So let's talk about your company. So can you explain what ERC 741 is exactly and why you created it?
Yeah, I can. So if you think about how the crypto world works today, the most common type of fungible token is called an ERC 20.
Right.
It's a type of smart contract that is used on the Ethereum blockchain to create a token that is compatible with just about every decentralized finance mechanism, exchange, whether central or decentral, in the world. And so generally, when people make a token that is either on Ethereum or what they call EVM compatible, they'll use that ERC20. Now, there's equivalents on things like every other chain, basically, that isn't ERC20 compatible, like Solana. But generally, there's a format like that. Now, on the other side, for NFTs, where everyone is different, there's a contract called ERC 721. And that allows you to define each token with a distinct identity, a uniqueness, and you can trace its path from birth and its provenance all the way through to today. So the concept here is, what if we could create a smart contract that we call 741, which is the combination of the idea of a 20 and the idea of a 721 to a 741. This contract, if it were to exist, and it does now, which I'm happy to announce,
Nice.
if it were to exist, you would now have the ability to entangle a 721 to every ERC20. And this changes the game, because when you onboard people to new ideas today, you have to basically you can do airdrops into their wallet. You can say, hey, we just dropped this, go take a look, here's a gift for you. Some people might find it obnoxious or intrusive. Some people might say thank you. But it's very different to be able to go to people and say, your tokens are now magical. We're not saying anything other than your tokens are now entangled. You can now see your fungible tokens. You can't see your Bitcoin today. You can't see your Ethereum. You can't see your Dogecoin. But what if you woke up in the morning and someone said, hey, your Doge is now visible? And did you know that if you got 10 of these, it's worth a new Ferrari? If you got one of these, it's worth $1 million. If you can assemble these 10 things together, this happens. Or just if you have any of these, walk into a Kroger supermarket, put in your phone number, and it's going to take these things off your bill. They become magical. They become valuable suddenly, individually so. But now you can start writing rules of the game. If you have various pieces, and every game can be different. For every token, you can make your own. This is not a token. Remember, it's a token type. The same way an NFT was a token type, and people made many different types of NFTs, or I should say many different NFTs of that type. Here we go again. Here's a new type. So now we're going to see all sorts of games develop in an entire ecosystem globally. And we're seeing already innovation and creativity flourish, and it's really just come out. So it's really just the beginning. So what you're going to see in maybe the next few weeks is, if you go to an entangled fungible token, something that's using this new entanglement chain, it can exist on any blockchain, this token, but suddenly it'll have these magical qualities. So somebody will send you 1,000 of them, or you can buy them, or wherever you'll get them for the particular project. And they'll exist just in your wallet like any other token, a quantity. You'll say, oh, I have 1,000. But then if you plug your wallet into the locker, which acts as the viewer of the tokens, you'll be able to say, I'd like to see which of these tokens are interesting to me. They'll each may have a different picture, or they'll each have a different color or shape or music or video or whatever it is that they've been entangled to. And for the first time, you'll be able to experience these things and then act on them and play with them and engage in games with them and drive behaviors of the community. So what this really is it's a step forward. It's an evolution in the history of tokens to be the next thing, a hybrid token. Now there are, in the time that we've started to evangelize this and talk about it, there are several other attempts for people trying to do something along these lines. I think we came out first with this notion of what this should be in the world. And now I believe we have the only scalable solution that has yet been introduced. The other solutions that you'll see have certain extraordinary drawbacks for what we're trying to do. The most important one is that it can work for existing projects as well as new ones. If you and I made a token today and we wanted to use this format, that's one thing. But what if we wanted to go and suddenly entangle and enable any token that exists in the world today to have these qualities and to work with full compatibility across all the systems that exist today, the exchanges, the applications, the dApps, the games, the staking mechanisms, everything that's out there, transparently, automatically, always working, continuing to work, but now having these extra qualities. That's what we set out to solve. And that's really what we have solved. That's what the 741 standard is.
Yeah, and how many companies are using this standard? I believe London Real has came out and said that he's starting to apply what you're using. Or
well, I don't know where London Real's plans are in specific, because I won't speak to any specific companies that are going to adopt this next generation. I can tell you that Vatom itself, as an organization, has focused on the main brands. We started in 2015. We built the technology that is being licensed and used by scores of the largest brands in the world, telcos and product packaged good companies, and companies like PepsiCo and Procter and Gamble, telcos that you hear every day. And what they're doing is they're using these traditional technologies augmented by Vatom Smart NFT technology to essentially engage with users. Well, now we have a way to engage with users better. It's really the next generation. So without naming specific names and stealing their thunder, I will say that we're seeing enormous uptick, and some of the more high profile brands and names in the world will start to adopt this standard as a next generation engagement modality.
yeah, that's phenomenal. That is really phenomenal. I just like, I'm pretty much speechless just by seeing like how much you guys are doing, and it's man, words can't even describe. But so what platforms are trading what is it what markets is on? Like, is it your token on Binance, or is it on was it Coinbase or any other exchanges that we should know about?
Yeah, so let's dive into that for a minute. In the limited time we have left here, I think maybe we can end on this. Let's be real specific about what's coming out. The 741 smart contract and the underlying entanglement chain is a proposed standard for anybody that wishes to create this next generation token. It's a token type. It's in a way to turbocharge the engagement and gamification and ultimate success of your token, whether it exists or whether you're contemplating making one. So every blockchain will be supported, and every exchange. It's really important. And the reason is we're not asking for any changes. The way finance works, crypto.com, Kraken, Base as a blockchain, Solana as a blockchain, Polygon as a blockchain, the way they all work today, Uniswap as a decentralized exchange, or PancakeSwap, every single one is compatible with the existing standards. What we've done in introducing this new contract is leave those standards untouched. So all of those exchanges and all of those mechanisms and dApps continue to be usable. What happens in the back end as a user, if you end up with these things, you can use all of those, but now you can, in the privacy of your own home and your own wallet, take a look at what you have and start playing with it in a completely new way. It should drive any behavior that you've effectively gamified. And so that compatibility is key, which is, I'm glad you asked the question. You'll see it everywhere.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And yeah, dude, I know that we ran short on time, but I appreciate you coming on the podcast. And yeah, whoever's listening or watching on YouTube, make sure you check out Vatom and follow Eric on Twitter. His links will be down below, and I'm pretty sure you guys are always having some new stuff coming out, right?
Thank you very much. Appreciate being here.
Take it easy, man.
You too.